And welcome to the Big Kickoff Football Show with myself, Roy Shanahan, David Buggle and Neal Dobbs. Neal, on a day that Liverpool won their first cup trophy, domestic cup trophy, I was going to say, in 10 years. I couldn't believe that myself. But they won it on penalties and a dramatic finish. But a 0-0 draw that was not what you would think a 0-0 draw would be.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I thought the game was cracking. Like, I was trying to take a couple of notes during the game of, tactical battles and stuff like that going on, but very, very engaging and enthralling game. The Carabao Cup sometimes gets a bad name as far as, people don't take it as seriously. Maybe they don't in the early stages when they have to use their full squad. So Liverpool and Chelsea will both be a good example of that. Obviously, then when it comes to the big day, you want to try and be sensible because you can't send out a bunch of kids. And I think the spectacle and the kind of performances both sides did, from the managers right down to every player that came on and the 5 subs that were used, and really, really cracking game. I thought just it pinnacled real nicely with Kepa coming on, and all this madness about the specialist goalkeeper, the history of Kepa not coming off the pitch for Sarri, and was he going to be the hero after all this time, despite being dropped for a game where they thought they were going to play him. And then what an end. And from an Irish point of view, absolutely chuffed for Caoimhín Kelleher to come in the way he did, scored his penalty, which was, I'd say, he absolutely crapped himself. Absolutely brilliant to see. Interesting, he didn't make a save for every penalty. Like, he got near a couple, might have got one, but didn't make a save. But it's great to see him at the end, how much he was appreciated by the team. You're seeing Henderson with him with the cup, and Jesus, the state of Irish goalkeeping has never been stronger, I don't think, in the last 20 years.
Yeah, no, it's brilliant on that side. Dave, is it a Mickey Mouse Cup?
Yeah, you can say that for most of it, but in fairness, the cream usually rises to the top, and it's usually two of the top 4 or 5 sides every year. And once it gets that way, the ego kicks in and lads want to win the trophy. And I suppose you could probably use it as a nice springboard for the rest of the season. Like, with Liverpool still on another 3 fronts, getting that winning feeling again, lifting a trophy in a big stadium, it just whets the appetite. Like, Chelsea had a nice little run of it there for the last 6 months or whatever. So that's what you could be probably looking at it. So yeah, it's if Liverpool just end up with that at the end of the season, would I be a bit disappointed? Yeah, but deep down, it could be the start of just whetting the appetite. But let's get on to the final for a second. As nil-all cup finals go, had everything. Like, lads, I lost count. How many goals were disallowed in the end? 4,
I'm not
5?
totally sure. It
was just unreal. Yeah. But I had a bit of everything. Plenty of chances on either side. Like, for a nil-all cup final, it certainly had everything. And then another, like, what's the story with these penalty shootouts lately? Like, the Europa League final with United was 11-10. A lot of the ones in European Cup were high scoring. Penalties nowadays, I don't know what the lads with the tablets.
They look very comfortable, Dave. As I said in the commentary, it looked like a training ground routine where they're just going up. It's as if it meant nothing to them. But I'm 100% sure. Obviously, I'm joking about the Mickey Mouse Cup, because the League Cup, Carabao Cup now, has always been the springboard to going on to better things, or keeping the momentum going of a club that's winning. So it is an important cup competition, and it's no I suppose coincidence that the big clubs do always end up in this. Dave, when you look at it, it's ironic, as Neal said, that Kepa was brought on to win it, and then of course it came down to his shooting ability, and it fell away. You have to try it though, don't you?
What, bring Kepa on?
Bring Kepa on, yeah. If you feel that he's the man for you.
I'm going to say something shocking. It's the first time. Well, not the first time, but I actually agree with Jamie Redknapp. I don't like it. I mean, like, either start them or not. Like, it was the same. Was Holland used to bring on Tim Krul? Yeah. And obviously, like, when it comes off, it looks great. But I would like. Edward Mendy was unbelievable today. Now, I know, obviously, Keller had a decent few saves as well, but some of Mendy's saves are outrageous. And I would feel hard done by with Mendy. Now, listen, if it pulls off, they're a genius, but it's not something that sits with me. If somebody's a goalkeeping expert, put him in. If it was a forward, or if it was somebody who's a penalty expert, right at the very end, I would. But keepers, you've been playing the whole game. It's a lot of pressure. And yeah, look, another day it would have been a master stroke, but I'm not its biggest fan, I'll be brutally honest with you, mate.
Yeah, Neal, I'm looking at Mo Salah taking that 5th penalty. I know it went all the way through to the goalkeepers, but that annoys me. That really does my head in, that these players who should be taking the first few penalties, who are nearly guaranteed scores, does that bother you? Is that just me?
If I'll put it like this, I think Milner's is a penalty, what you call set piece expert. Fabinho is the same, and then you've got Mo Salah. So I think you've got three really, really solid ones. So from that particular penalty shootout, I'm okay with that, because Milner specialised, very, very experienced. Fabinho specialised, very, very experienced. So you can afford to have Salah fifth, because you're expecting it to go to the fifth. I think the reason why it came to the four in the African nations was because, you know, Egypt did not have four of them guys of them ilk before Mo Salah went. So in that regard, I would have put your best foot forward, send up your best taker. But Chelsea did it as well. With Jorginho, you know, Ronaldo has done it for years, which may tie in a little bit with the ego. It can be a risky game, like in the African Cup final, when it comes back to bite you in the ass. But that particular one today, I would have been okay with Milner going first and then Fabinho follow him. I think you put, you know, two of your best three full forward on that one.
Well, sure. Look at Timo Werner was like 8th or 9th, and he's a striker. You know,
yeah, man.
But he is Timo Werner.
Yeah, no, but Aaron Conley was the cup a couple of weeks ago. He never stepped up, and there was 8 or 9 penalties taken on both sides, and he's a forward and he was sat up with his arms over the shoulders. Like, it bugs the shit out of me when forwards don't take penalties.
Yeah, it does for me. But with Timo Werner, Dave, he was the one who I looked at and went, "Oh, this is the one that could lose it." You know, it just.
If you have to back yourself. If you're a forward, your main job is to score goals. You should be demanding that you're in that first 5. End of story. But to be 8th or 9th or whatever he was, I was like, I hope he misses now, because like, this is ridiculous. Like, you know, but that's another little gripe, as well as what you said about Salah the main guys being last. That's is a risky gamble, but all forwards should be in the top 5. End of story, and then follow suit, whoever it may be.
Yeah, probably a silly argument from us when they went and scored 10 out of 10. The goalkeepers had missed.
But see the one where Kepa was practically on the post and Van Dijk still went that side.
Unbelievable, wasn't it? Yeah, the power, and then he gave him the look. Yeah, brilliant. That was great.
Dave, what do you think, Roy?
Go on.
Sorry, what do you think of the carry on with Kepa? As in, you introduce Kepa and this kind of, you know, walking out to the 6-yard box, messing with his socks, and then the referee corrects him 3 times in a row, but then, like, what can the ref do? Can he give him a yellow card and say, look, you need to stop this? Or
you can send him off. You can still send him off, Neal. So, I mean, you can warn him, then you can give him a yellow card, and then you say, next time it's another yellow card, you're going to be sent off, and just be brutally
like
frank.
That happened for an Ireland underage team or something.
Remember that? Yeah, he came off the line, he got a second yellow card.
2 yellows.
Yeah.
But then Ireland,
it became apparent after the third penalty, he was going to let him go. He was going to let him go after the third, and then, you know, from that point forward, he just had a free rein. So it was something he probably should have nipped in the bud. But online there, I'm checking, and a lot of people are giving Kepa a lot of stick for what he did. There's short memories there when you watch what Bruce Grobbelaar did all them years ago, and even Jersey Dudek. So, you know, the shoes on the other foot, it's a little bit different. Yeah.
That's it. Dave, who stood out for you in the game? I thought Rudiger was excellent in the game as a defender. I thought he kept Salah fairly quiet down that side. But it's not only Salah he kept quiet, he just did a really staunch job in that centre defence.
Yeah, he's in flying form, and to think that he might go for nothing at the end of the year is simple, you know. And anyone in that mother, I don't think he'd end up at Liverpool, but I think every club should be sniffing around. He's a fine defender, and he's definitely playing like he's a point to prove, and he's certainly one of the form guys in Premier League football, or in relation to defence. Elsewhere, and Chelsea, it was hard to tell. Like, the first 10 minutes, they came out very bold and very brave, and then it kind of was a lot of Liverpool ball, where I thought Diaz is really starting to settle in nicely and start to get to the rhythm of the game, because Salah was kept quite quiet. So the guys out on the left flank got a lot of joy. Fabinho was just doing his usual self, breaking everything down, which was quite impressive. But no one really jumped out a mile for me. I don't know whether it was by default or because he was standing there beside him, but I think Van Dijk was given the man of the match trophy. I don't know if that's official or not, but I wouldn't have given it to him, to be honest. That's for sure. I know if you give it to somebody off Liverpool, I don't know, maybe the keeper, just purely for a couple of the saves he made in the first half. But like, no one was horrendous, but I don't think anyone jumped out more so than Rudiger. But I think overall it was solid performances enough from everyone. But poor old Mason Mount didn't have his shooting boots on today, that's for sure.
Yep, and he doesn't seem to be in the same form as he was. He was a key component to that team, and just even in behind Pulisic as well. So there's a couple of little positions in behind the striker that's just not firing all cylinders for Chelsea at the moment, and that may be why they're struggling slightly. Neal, what does this do for Liverpool now in the title run? And we're going to talk about Manchester City against Everton, and actually we'll talk about that now. Manchester City got a fortunate victory, I suppose you could call it, with talk about the handball now.
Yeah,
I hope you've seen it.
I did see it, yeah. No, I've seen the handball, and there's 150 images of because it's all about the shirt line now, isn't it? You know, how low on the shirt and all it is. Frank Lampard, I think, summed it up best when he basically said, I don't want apologies. I don't want any kind of, oh yeah, Frank, we're sorry you didn't get that. It means absolutely nothing to them. Slated the officials, slated VAR, slated basically everybody, but kind of went, look, I don't need your pity. I needed that point. And he really did need that point, Frank Lampard. And it would have been whatever about, Liverpool and what that will do for them today. Imagine what that point would have done for Everton and would have done for Frank Lampard and the project that he's starting to get going on. So very disappointed. I get from a Liverpool, if you put your Liverpool shirt on, you were thinking, geez, there's another draw, and City are really beginning to wobble. But they pulled through it, which, by the good graces. So what can you say? It was a horrendous decision. As they were saying, a 3-year-old would have looked at that and said, yeah, hit his arm. I don't know. There's a lot of calls for corruption and stuff like that, which I won't go that far, but bitterly disappointing if you're on the Everton side and even, dare I say, Liverpool side when you're looking at that.
Maybe the VAR official was part of the boxing referees.
Don't get me started.
We won't go into that one. Dave, there has been calls for, and I think it's absolutely spot on, that we should be allowed hear what the officials say now. We've talked about this before, but it's gathering momentum now. VAR and referees communicating together just like the rugby does. It really needs to be brought in now, because we need to know exactly why. They don't come out afterwards. We don't get to hear anything afterwards, and we won't hear anything about this. This will be all over and done with. We just have to accept it, and that's not the way it should be.
And just to reiterate a little bit what Neal said there, especially about, I thought Frank Lampard hit the nail on the head, and his exact line at the very end, which is something that I would have wanted to say a few times, but just probably wouldn't have said it as well. Listen, it's one of two things. It's either they put their hand up and say it's incompetence, or two, they actually explain to me why they made that decision, because he just doesn't get it. He just doesn't get it 1,000,000% like anyone else did. But if we could hear it, we could maybe still think they're an idiot and still think they made a wrong decision. But at least we can kind of trying to comprehend by their thought process, which obviously we don't. And it's the same. It was even the same today a little bit. Like, most of them were fairly straightforward, but the Liverpool goal that got disallowed, I was kind of going, right, it looks like he's offside, but are they disallowing it for offside, or are they disallowing it for a bit of an obstruction? Which is it, like? But not that I care, but it was just out of interest, So if you hear them talking, you'd know for sure whether it was offside or obstruction or whatever it may be. Same as yesterday. Why on earth do they think that that's not a handball? Because he blatantly put it under his control and then sent it home. I'm harking back to it just for a bit of crack, but I'd rather they have scored a Vincent Kompany style goal instead of that horrible goal that somehow Michael Keane, his legs just gave up and just froze.
It was unlucky. He got a deflection, didn't he? He put him off balance. I did everything he could.
When it went in, I went, give me a 35-yard screamer into the top corner. I can live with that more. But look, it could be a massive game in the greater scheme of things, because if the two teams keep spitting out the results that they are, these kind of moments are definitely going to be talked about potentially when the season's over, and the margins could be minimal.
Yeah, so I think everyone on the planet can agree that was definitely a handball and a penalty, and we are baffled, I suppose, how it went, and these things need to be sorted out, so hopefully that does happen. Now, today, Marcelo Bielsa left Leeds on mutual consent. I can understand that he's that kind of proud person that he actually probably couldn't see himself do the job any further with the way things are going. He's kind of that kind of lad. Former Leipzig manager Jesse Marsch is close to being appointed head coach. We've got that from a couple of sources. What do we know about him, Dave?
Well, he is born in Racine, Wisconsin in the US. He's 48 years of age, pretty much played his whole career in the MLS, and then obviously he managed the national team for 2 matches. Was the assistant then, but obviously had a couple of stints in MLS. One of them had been a part of the Red Bull umbrella with New York, and from there he obviously must have impressed and ended up at Salzburg, and now at Leipzig, and now he's been heavily tipped. So he's kind of gone through the Red Bull Academy side of things. So he wouldn't stray too far away from what Bielsa does, but maybe with a little bit more of a defensive structure, because whatever about what Bielsa does, there was a great a bit of analysis on a moment in the first half yesterday where all 11, they weren't just in Spurs half, they were well into Spurs half, and as soon as the passage of play broke down, it was 4-on-1 within the blink of an eye, because you've got your Sons and Kanes of this world to counterattack, and it was just wild and reckless. And obviously the match against Liverpool and Anfield during the week, 6-0 and now 4-0, the writing was on the wall. So this Jesse Marsch guy, obviously, as I said, certainly under the tutor, it says here he succeeded Nagelsmann, and he's been there now at the moment. So I would say potentially a little bit similar in the sense of the high pressing and stuff, but maybe with a bit more of a defensive structure to make things tight. But in fairness, Bielsa's been missing Calvin Phillips as well. He's a massive loss in that defensive side of the axis for them.
And Bamford as well.
And Bamford as well with the goal. So goals dried up. Their little anchor in the midfield, kind of they're missing. But at the same time, you know, even last year, like as good as it is when it clicks at this level, that team wasn't good enough, and the big boys just picked them apart. But now the mid-range and the lower teams are starting to pick them apart, and it was the beginning of the end, unfortunately.
Yeah, Neil, I'm just after looking at their results. In the last 14 games, they've won 3. That's including 1 game in the FA Cup. Last 5 games, they've lost 4 and drawn 1. It's just they've been plummeting for a good while now. And when you see the other teams down the bottom actually getting results, it probably had to be done, didn't it?
Yeah, look, I took a good long look at Bielsa last year, right, when they were picked apart by Man United under Solskjaer, and even this year now, there's been a couple of the bigger teams, Dave was saying, some of the bigger teams really, really did a number on them, and the solution wasn't very hard. It was basically to bring your centre half past their number 9, and then you were literally running right at the defence. So they got sussed by Man United, they got sussed by Liverpool recently, and then Spurs just meat and drink to Son and Kane. Balls over the top, Leeds push up, very predictable. Bielsa plays one style, it's Bielsa way or no way. It can be successful at times, high energy, high octane, but I remember looking at their stats even when I was writing the article and thinking to myself, have they had a clean sheet in the last 2 seasons? Because they are absolutely throw the kitchen sink at you every single time, and the odd time it comes off and they get a big win. But when you start getting analysed to that depth by the other Premier League managers that realise there's that kind of naivety to it, they'll just keep picking you off. They'll sit and they'll sit. You can't get in behind them, and then you're shipping goals. So there's a lot more, I think, going on there. I think he's kind of reached the end of the way he wanted to play in that kind of open style. It's very risky in the Premier League. On a personal note, I guess, when you look at Bielsa, it's kind of probably disappointing on the road that he's brought Leeds on. You know, he's brought them up and he's brought them to where they are today, but probably in hindsight now the right decision for him to step away.
Yeah, 100%. Listen, I said it before when he was at the height of it, when he got them into the Premier League, watching their football, I think that what he was doing, I thought, was overrated by everyone. You know, everyone jumps on the hype train. I think he's done a fantastic job, don't get me wrong. Everyone was putting him at the huge top level, and as you said, there's too many gaps at the back. Even Pep doesn't leave it that wide open, so there was question marks for me.
Goals. They've conceded the most goals in the league this year. Norwich are not at 55. They've 5 goals more than Norwich, so it says a lot.
Yeah, if you're gonna be that open, you're gonna have to keep the ball a long time, and they don't keep the ball long enough. Just like Pep's team are fortunate that they have the players that they're able to keep that ball. Okay, Russia. We've seen everything that's happening in the Ukraine at the moment, some heartbreaking stories coming out of there. But when it comes to football, there's a lot of countries who are unwilling to play them, Neil, including Poland in the World Cup qualifiers. It's the semi-final, isn't it? And the English FA came out today and said they will not play any Russian team at any age level or senior level. And there's a lot more countries starting to come out now. What's your thoughts on all this? Is this the way it should be? Should should it be football separate from politics? Although I don't even think that's always been the way.
Yeah, I mean, what do? Do you separate the people? Do you separate the teams? Do you separate the individual sports from politics? I guess you can't. It kind of feels right that they have to have some kind of coming together, but everyone bands together and does what little they can. Whether little is you're calling off an under-16s game, or the likes of the English FA coming out at the halftime today in the Carabao and kind of announcing that, hey, we're weighing in heavily on this to the maximum of their ability. Now, again, does that matter in the grand scheme of things as far as what goes on, the people who make the decisions? But I do think it's important to show solidarity. I do think it's important that whatever can be done can be done. And if these are the kind of small steps that get you there, so be it. But it does open up a can of worms from the football community of what is going to be the outcome of Poland, for example, refusing to play a game, what way this is handled. And now it's going to push, I guess, the guys at the top of the tree to make decisions of whether that's acceptable and they're going to move on, or what exactly they're going to do in the future.
Dave, was it UEFA or FIFA that came out today with, I suppose, the news that they want to play them under a banner of kind of a neutral sort of team?
So it's FIFA, a bit similar to the Russian Olympic Committee in the Winter Olympics and obviously the Summer Olympics previously. So they've ordered Russia to complete their upcoming matches without their flag, anthem, and as the Football Union of Russia in neutral territory following the invasion of Ukraine. So obviously you said Poland, who are on who they're drawn with in the World Cup playoff, but Czech Republic and Sweden are on the other side of the semi-finals, and they both said they won't play them either. So FIFA said they'd like to reiterate its condemnation of the use of force by Russia in its invasion of Ukraine. Violence is never a solution, and FIFA expresses its deepest solidarity to all the people affected. However, they said it's continuing dialogue with the International Olympic Committee, UEFA, and other sports organizations to determine any additional measures or sanctions. So that's their first step, and it looks like they'll probably all come together, I suppose, as one. Is it a cop out by FIFA?
Maybe, because if these countries are saying they're not going to play them, it doesn't make a damn of a difference who's what banner they're under.
Absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt, they need to make a call, because if this ongoing conflict sticks around, like there's a lot of people, like from some of the news reports, like it's all speculation, but they definitely think this is going to unfortunately be around for a good while to come, and it's a marathon, not a sprint. So, they'll have to make that call, but I think they should make it early, because it might help. It might just public unrest at home, and everyone and their mother stands up and says enough's enough, this has got to stop, and stuff like this maybe can help. So if one of the organizations sticks their head out and said, right, this is what we're doing. F1 have banned the Russian Grand Prix, which is not till September. The Champions League final has already been cancelled. UEFA are looking to scrap the Gazprom sponsorship. Schalke came out with their own name across the jersey instead of Gazprom at the weekend. So there's some measures been made, but FIFA really need to step up, and need to step up fast, because I think it's next month is the playoffs. So you haven't got much time to consider this. So if anyone should, in fairness, it should be the most popular sport in world football, in world sport, that should maybe lead from example and say, right, you're gone, and don't pussyfoot around it.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see. I personally think that they shouldn't be. No one should play them. I don't think they should be in anything.
It'd be dangerous as well, right?
Yeah. Well, of course it'd be dangerous.
Could you imagine the people would be flooding to Poland or whatever neutral venue where the game is? Remember, like here when South Africa toured and there was awful stuff going on when it was in the height of apartheid. Like it could be dangerous in wherever they play in mainland Europe with protests and God knows what,
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, we'll leave that one there, because there's more to come with that. That's probably down the line. Next week you could have a whole different story, so we'll keep an eye on that. It's just something that came up on a poll there during the week. I'll start with Neal now. You seen the way that Russia or the Ukraine, if you were 18 to 60, you had to go in and you had to fight for your country. Neal, would you fight for your country? Put your life in danger?
There's a lot of there's a lot of guys I work with that have done military service, and they've done it from, say, 17 to 18, 19, etc.
But they're not as soft as you now.
No, definitely not. You know what it is, when I was younger and fitter and played a bit of ball, and you were into your kind of outdoorsy type of thing, I think you would have jumped at the opportunity for a year, as in, and then see where it goes. I don't think I would have had a problem with it. But these are countries that it's mandatory. It's a little bit different than dragging the average 18-year-old out of the house. You'd be doing well these days to do it, to pry the PlayStation controller out of their hand and put a gun in their hand. But I don't think there's any harm to it, as far as maybe it builds better characters. The guys that I work with swear by it, and they encourage it, as far as they reckon it made them better people and better understanding of kind of humankind and what goes into, defending a country. So it's something for Ireland. I guess we've always had the neutrality side of things, even though we have got our army. I would encourage it, even from the physical aspect, getting people out there and knowing that this is going to be ahead of you, maybe from a, physical, mental exercise type of thing. It could be a good deal, but I wouldn't hold.
But if you were forced into a war, say the Isle of Man decided we can take on those Arab boys, would you pick up a gun and fight for your country? Yes or no?
I would if we're under attack. Yes. Going into enemy territory, maybe not. Okay,
Dave, you say yes or no. We get out of this one.
Yeah, same. If it was she was on the other foot and somebody was coming into Ireland, I think I'd have to. I don't think I could sit with jumping on a plane or a boat or getting out of here. And obviously being family men now as well, I suppose it'd be you'd be thinking of the greater picture, to going, I think I need to do what I need to do. And I'd just leave it at this. But look at the footage of the lads leaving Dublin Airport. It's just heartbreaking to think that's and very admirable. Very admirable.
Unbelievable. So Isle of Man, beware. Okay, Newcastle United have made, Dave, a huge turnaround. And when you look at them now, I think they're pushed up to 14th. I haven't got the league table here in front of me. I think it's 14th or 15th place. Now, again, separated by a few points. You could easily drop back down again. But it's not just where they are now, it's how they're going about it, Dave, and how they're playing their football. And Ryan Fraser was on after the game the other night talking about Eddie Howe and what he has done to change the mentality around the club. What does this say about Eddie Howe, first of all, about Newcastle's players who we were all slating, and Steve Bruce?
Yeah, and it just goes to show you, obviously the results help, because whatever about a new manager coming in and having great new ideas and wanting to freshen things up, you need the results to back it up, because he can come in with the greatest of enthusiasm and the greatest of ideas, and everything's going to be nice and new and fresh and bright and breezy. But you keep losing 4 or 5 in a row, it's just the same old, and that's what happens. So thankfully the results have gone his way. But now that they are, the way they're playing, they're not playing like relegation team. They're not playing with that fear factor. There's a definite swagger, a little bit of a swagger almost, and there's certainly a confidence. And the fact that they're missing Trippier and even Saint-Maximin, who are arguably probably their 2 best players, says a lot. And the resurgence of Joe Linton playing in this deeper midfield role, it's unbelievable. Like, that determination for that header, that wouldn't have happened if he was playing up front a year ago. That's for sure. So it's a nice, perfect marriage of a new guy coming in with fresh ideas, but the results have backed it up. So whatever he's saying now has a lot more credibility. And even Fraser, that could have been a bit of a bitter pardon when he jumped ship from Bournemouth, but obviously all bets are off, and he's playing like a man possessed, because maybe he feels like he should be playing for him because of what happened with Bournemouth. And long may it continue for them, because as I said, they're unbeaten in the last 5, and yes, they're 4 points away from Burnley, Burnley have a game in hand. But if they keep going the way they are, we won't be talking about them as relegation material. But it's just a nice, perfect marriage, and long may it continue. And if they really start to flex their financial muscles, it could get very interesting in another couple of years' time. But starting to feel, I'd be a lot more confident that they're going to stay up, and I don't think they'll be embroiled in that battle if what they're doing at the moment maintains.
Yep, totally agreed. Neal, Brentford again lost yesterday. Of course, it was to Newcastle now, albeit there was a sending off in the game that really changed the whole atmosphere around the game. So it gave them a little bit of a tough time trying to get something out of that game. But Christian Eriksen came on for, I think it was half an hour he came on for. But I know you're over in the States, Neal, and you haven't got to see as much football as you would have previously. But when Christian Eriksen came on, he showed the little bits of class. There was some passes that he played were outstanding. If anything, Christian Eriksen needs to be their saviour now at this stage, doesn't he?
Yeah, they look. I think they're on a wing and a prayer at the moment, Ryan. We said it last week with Brentford. I'm worried about them. Look, form is this is the time to hit the form. As Dave was saying there with Newcastle, they've picked the right time since the Christmas break to pick up the results, pick up form, and that gives you momentum to head into the final few games. Whereas Brentford started off with great form, they were attacking teams, they were risky, they were positive, and you've watched them in the last 4 or 5 games, and they really, really have gone negative. And that kind of buzz, that kind of, the free shot at a game at a big club where they played against Liverpool and played against City and gave them a third time, has now gone, and now the fear is moved in. And the problem with the fear is that it's very difficult to get rid of that, and sometimes it happens with a change of manager. Sometimes it happens with a change of influence. And I'm hoping that this time, if they don't change the manager, that it's a change of a player or personnel. And maybe Eriksson fits that profile. He would be going around there, big personality, guy that's kind of been there, seen it. And hopefully he rubs off on them players and can encourage them to get back to that kind of, I won't say free scoring, but definitely attack-minded positivity that was in the Brentford performances in the first kind of half of the season. But they need him, and they need that type of attitude going forward.
Yep. Dave, I'm just going to finish off with the League of Ireland, funny enough, because the League of Ireland has started off some great different results there. It's definitely a tighter league this year. But the one thing that I want to focus on is the attendances. Just on League of Ireland standards, it's been brilliant. All getting in around 4,000, which is brilliant for the stadia that is available. And it looks like the COVID scenario has actually helped the League of Ireland and boost it. Maybe because there was the League of Ireland TV gave a package that you could see all the games, and people were sitting at home and got to see more games. But there's certainly been a boost in attendances, and this can only be good for Irish football.
Yeah, it was gathering great momentum before COVID, and then obviously with COVID actually coming in, and I definitely agree with you in relation to League of Ireland TV. You get to see more of your own team, or any neutrals who were always sitting on the fence about League of Ireland, maybe probably developed a love for a team. But I think the fact of just getting out to see a game of ball has been a massive pull as well, which is brilliant. But it's also a decent game of ball nowadays. Like the coverage needs to maintain what it is. Like, even though it was a wild night and the weather wasn't great and the pitch was soft from 2 weeks ago with Shells and Pats, it was still an impressive game of football where they were trying to do it in the right way, and credit to them. But then the goal alone is an advertisement, the winner in the last minute. Now, obviously what happened afterwards, we'll move on from that. But the McGonigal's goal for Derry in the last minute on Friday night was fantastic, in a massive game, just to kind of lay a marker down that they are going to be potentially one of the better teams to challenge Rovers this year, who would be anyone outside of Ireland. They'd be like our Galactico. They have a lot of stars, but that factor, what you're saying, League of Ireland and everything else, but definitely just to get out and see a game of ball live. Just to jump ship for a minute, but even though I'd say attendance are up in the likes of the Gaelic League, I've definitely noticed there's a bit more. Brother-in-law goes to a lot of the games, and he's noticed the away games that he goes to, there's a lot more there, maybe 1,000 or 2 extra. So I think it's that buzz of being out again and seeing some good football. But not only that, the standard, regardless, going back to League of Ireland, the standard is definitely there. And not every game is the best game in the world. Watch the Premier League every weekend. You're not going to get a cracker every minute of the day. So the fact that you've only seen a match of a Friday, you might think, oh, geez, the last 3 have been shite. No wonder League of Ireland's brutal. But with League of Ireland TV, you could watch whatever you wanted, and you got to see your own team, and you got to see, like, yeah, this standard is decent, and it's good to watch. And not only that, it's up the road for a tenner. Come on.
Yeah, and Neal, just looking at the atmosphere at some of the games, of course, they say no pyro, no party. There seems to be a lot of flares flying around the place, but there seems to be an unbelievable atmosphere. And it's something that the more there seems to be a good atmosphere. I think the other night Bohemians were playing at home, and Johnny Logan was on a half timer at the start of the game, and the whole crowd were singing "Hold Me Now." So there's a little bit of Irishness to it as well. So this is what they want. This is their opportunity now to drag people in, isn't it?
Yeah, do you know what it is, Ryan? And it just while you were talking away there, it just reminded me the reasons, and Dave hit the nail on the head there of why I turned away from League of Ireland football years ago when I was going to Shelbourne games. We used to go into town, go over to Rovers, which is only across the road. But it was because it was the same kind of mercenaries were moving to the different clubs all the time, whoever had the most money, and the football was atrocious to watch. It was hoofball football, but like I've been at quite a few Rovers games last year, and I mean the quality of football is really good. But for me, and maybe it's just because I'm a little bit more involved, even in the female section where I'm getting my daughter involved in the 17s and 19s that are being played now at the moment. You've all this proper Irish homegrown talent that are coming through all the teams, and you don't look at the bench anymore and see these guys being brought in from abroad or from, Division 2, Division 1 in England. They're our homegrown talent, and that to me is the biggest pull to get me back, is when you have Irishness in Irish football. And that's the type of thing where you can recognise a kid that came through your club or a kid that has been brought through our system, and that to me is the biggest pull to get people back in there.
That's true, Neal. Just quickly, I remember going to see Bows in Cork 4 or 5 years ago for no other reason than I wanted to see what Sean Maguire was all about, because it was obvious he was going to go, because he was banging them in left, right and centre, and he was quiet that night, but Carl Shepard was on a different level. He was a joy to watch, but yeah, like that the next talent, and 18, 19, 20, they are going and they're moving, and it's a great chance to see up and coming emerging talent. You can say, yeah, I remember seeing him when he was 18 up in Inchicore or wherever it may be, and yeah, big time. I'd 100% agree with that.
Yeah, something for those from Ireland to keep an eye out for. And of course, we have the Big Kickoff League of Ireland podcast. If you can find us on YouTube and on all major podcast providers, just like this show as well. So if you're listening on podcasts, we're on YouTube. Check us out, and vice versa. If you are looking at these ugly mugs, we're also available on all the podcasts you can find. Okay, Dave, thanks very much. Neal, thanks very much. And thanks very much for you for watching and listening. And we'll talk to you next week.